I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master,
such as
Wayfarers of the South Tigris from Garphill Games and Renegade Games Studios.
So this is the first entry. This is Wayfarers, and if you'll recall, if you've watched our top 10 video, this was a game that made both of our lists. Number 10 on mine, it was an honorable mention for Jeremy, so you already have an idea of what we think about this game. And so with this, the idea is that you are a wayfarer and that you are going to be doing a number of things. You're going to be building up your tableau area. You're going to be progressing down this track. And how you're going to be doing those things are managing your resources. This is a Euro game through and through, managing these tight resources. You've got money and provisions. Those are going to be your main resources. And you're going to be using dice and meeples as your workers. So this is a little bit of worker placement, I suppose.
Dice placement.
Dice placement, but you are putting out these workers, taking some actions wherever you place them.
Yeah. It's like the old Raiders of the North Sea idea, whereas I'm placing a worker or I'm taking a card that lets me pull workers to place later. But
the main mechanic, I think, with this particular game is going to be the tableau building that you're building off your main player board. And unfortunately, we're just not going to be able to fit all of this on frame. I'm going to move this back out onto the frame. But you do have this player board that starts with some cards already built into it. And those are going to give you some actions that you can build off of. You're also going to pay attention to this little area up here, because with your dice that you have, and you are rolling these dice at the beginning of the round, and that's going to determine what columns these dice are able to work for you. And so you can see that there are going to be some icons already printed on the 1 and 6 column. So the 6 right here is great for observatory or
space actions.
Space actions, right. But my 3 right here, it doesn't have an icon already built into it. You can see these icons right here, but those are resources that you gain when you put tiles on top of these spots. You don't have any abilities tied into numbers 3 and 5. You got to earn those throughout the course of the game. So this 3 is not as valuable to me as this 6 is. And with those different icons, they're going to let you do different actions with your tableau. And the way you're building up your tableau is by getting these cards that you see on the outside of the board. And you have 5 different markets of cards. Areas to purchase cards from. You've got your land cards that are going to be down here in the bottom left.
And they always get placed on the left side of your tableau.
Right, so they're going to be going out this direction. And then you've got your C cards over here on your bottom right, and those are going to go on the bottom right of your tableau section down here. You've got your townsfolk, and the townsfolk are going to be a little bit different, and they're harder to get. You do have to have one of these green workers to go up here and take these actions up here, and they're going to cost money, whereas the other ones are going to require you to have already things on your tableau to be able to place these sections. And the townsfolk do as well. So there's more requirements that you need to be able to get these guys up here, and they're going to slot underneath different cards, and this is probably not a legal placement, but you're going to be sliding these cards underneath to beef up the actions that you're going to be doing on these cards as the game progresses.
Well, hold on. You don't have to have a green worker. You can place a die here, and it lets you add a townsfolk paying the cost. Now, using a green worker to do actions up there are usually more powerful actions than taking a card, but you could always either take 2 provisions or purchase their services, taking their card, placing them under one of these land or sea cards, depending on what requirement it has. And then that will allow you to actually take them into your service.
And then lastly, well, not lastly, actually, second to last, you have the space cards, which are over there in the top right corner of the board, and those are going to be placed on the top right and the top left section. They're going to be placed above your land and sea cards, and those are going to mostly give you in-game points, different goals that you're trying to achieve, having the most stars, getting the most planets, that idea. It's a bit of set collection.
And in addition to that, it does give you icons, and those icons are very necessary because moving through this cartographer's map type idea, you've got to have certain things
Yeah.
in your tableau and certain types of land or space. And as you have those, you can cross certain regions, or you could also have a requirement of having a certain amount of townsfolk, things like that. But those cards and those icons are going to allow you to not only score points at the end, but they're also going to allow you to move through this cartographer's track here as well.
And then the last market of cards, which are seldomly used, but they are important, are these cards way down here on the far right end of the board. And those cards are going to double up your in-game points on these space cards if you achieve them. So it's kind of like a secondary goal, a secondary reason for really wanting to accomplish this, because I'll get double the points if I do. But you can also take actions on any of these spots where the cards are by placing the workers out on those spots. So how a turn works in the course of this game, you're making the choice on your turn whether you want to use one of your dice, because your dice are workers, or if you're wanting to put out a meeple. Now the catch is, with the meeples, they don't come back to you. They stay in the spot that you put them. So if I put a worker here, for instance, that worker is going to stay there, and if anybody ever purchases this card, they're getting the worker that's there with it. And so you use the meeple, you lose the meeple, unless you take that card and then you get the meeple back. Otherwise, your constant actions are going to be your dice. And the actions that you're taking throughout the course of the game are mostly going to be getting at these cards to building your tableau, but also using your resources to get tiles. There's going to be tiles out here. We didn't put them out on the board. There's a lot of pieces with this particular game, and we didn't want to clutter up the board too much. But you are going to have tiles that fit in these different sections on the board. And with those tiles, you're going to be putting them in this area on your board. And that's going to give you more icons to use to let you take more actions throughout the course of the game with your dice. You can see that you've got this space icon, a camel, a boat, a bird. Well, those icons are going to show up on these tiles that you fit into your polyomino portion of the game. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to make your dice more powerful. So my 3, which was before not really good for a whole lot, if I put those icons in there, now I can make it work as a 1, I can make it work as a 6, I can make it work as anything. And some of the other tiles will let you bump up a number or step down a number. Maybe it makes paying for these cards a bit cheaper, because now I get a 1 coin discount, I get a 1 provision discount.
Or victory points.
Or victory points, yeah. A lot of them have victory points.
And icons. So for your set collections, which is part of the in-game, having so many of a different region type or land type or sea type, or in addition to that, just having an overall set of all of them, those icons will go towards that. So those can help. In addition, you may have some that give you comment icons or things like that that can also help you move across this map, or for the in-game scoring.
Now each player is going to take one action, and it will go to the next player, and it'll go round and round the table until you decide that you don't want to take any more actions, or you don't have any more actions to take. And then you can rest at that point. And as I said, you can rest at any point, but it's in your best interest to only do that when you have 1 or none dice left for you to be able to use, because you get a special benefit if you wait till that point.
And at times it may be best to take that rest action at the 1, because that may allow you to journal here. And if you journal, you could unlock these green meeples, which, like we said, give you more powerful actions. Could let you get to these different purple tiles that are going to give you certain icons that you want, or point totals. So, and you would activate any cards like this townsfolk and your starting one. Those would activate whenever you rest. And then, like I said, you'd be able to journal or do different things based on what resting townsfolk you have, which could be more beneficial to not wait.
Now the big thing that the other big idea with this game that you're trying to do, as Jeremy mentioned, is the journaling aspect of this game. And you can only do that when you rest, or when you take the journaling action that is right here on your player board. And sometimes some of the other cards may allow you to do that as well. the journaling action is this track progression part of the game, and it's very akin to the same idea with the track progression that was in Arnok, if you're familiar with that game, The Lost Ruins of Arnok, where you really need to pay attention to the different things that you're going to need to be able to already have in your tableau, or the resources that you're going to need to pay in order to advance down this track. And you can do this quickly. You don't have to just move you do have to move one step at a time, but you can already be preparing for what the next step is before you even get to the step in front of it. And the idea here is to progress through this track quickly, because when you get to the end, that's going to trigger the end game, and getting to the very end of the track is going to allow you some end game victory points. But you do have to pay attention to the path that you're taking, because not all the spots are going to be available to you. So for instance, if I go down to this bottom section here, I am not going to be able to go to this top section next. I'm going to have to pay beaches, or these are beaches, excuse me, or oceans, to be able to move into either one of these two boxes, which if I would have gone here, I could have used mountains or cities. So you do need to pay attention to the path that you're taking. But you do want to move quickly, because the first person that gets to either one of these sections gets a green worker. And the green worker is better than the yellow or blue worker. They have the ability to go up here and take these actions, which are better actions for you. And so that's the two main ideas here with this game. You've got the tableau building, and you've got the track progression, and you're making all of that happen by managing your resources and managing your dice workers and your meeple workers. There's one other little aspect to the game, and that's going to be the influence that you're building up with these three different huts. I'm sure they stand for something. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. But
They're the Taj? They're the Taj?
Okay, yeah. And you want to try to have the most influence in them at the end of the game, because that's also going to give you victory points. But you can spend your influence at these different huts. That you can see there's three different colors, black, yellow, and blue. And you can spend your influence on your turn for doing other special things. And so, for instance, I can spend my influence at the blue hut to give me an extra boat, because some of these cards are going to require two boats to be able to use, and I can't do that with just my one boat that I have here on my tableau. I'm going to need another boat, and I can do that by spending influence at the blue hut. The yellow hut here is going to allow you to change the value of your dice, +1, -1. And then the black hut is going to allow you to journal again on the same action where you already are journaling. So that's going to let you bump up twice. Something that's super powerful, super beneficial, allows you to catch up with the other players if you're lagging behind, or push yourself even farther ahead if you've already got a little bit of a lead. So those actions are very powerful for you.
At the end of the game, if you haven't used those and you have a majority, you're going to check majority in each one of those, and then whichever ones that player has the most majority, they'll gain 3 points. In addition to that, you can get an action from certain cards that will allow you to place influence on a card out here, which when you do, later if somebody wants that card, they're going to have to pay you to take it.
Yep.
So
that's the main idea here with the game. A bit of a crash course, just run through the idea of what's happening with this game. For more detailed rules, teach on this game, do check out some of the other videos that are out there. They're very good, very detailed videos. But now we're going to share with you our thoughts on what we think about this particular game. Jeremy, I'm going to let you go first. Just overall, what's your opinion on this one, and how did it hit you?
Well, like I said, this was on my honorable mention list. I love what Garphill Games does. Ever since Raiders of the North Sea, I've been a devout follower. I love that they take an idea and they tweak it where it's just a whole new thing. And this one does that. I really like the idea of the tableau building out and the way that the cards do create this nice landscaped area. Yeah, with everything here. One thing I will say is it is a table hog, and if you're playing this with 4 people and they've got this, I mean, we constantly, every time I played, had to keep moving our boards over because the cards were about to just butt up against each other. Yeah. Especially if one person goes all land.
Yeah.
and the other person goes all C.
Yeah, and they're just sitting next to each other.
Or even half and half, they're gonna butt up to him because that person went all in. I will say I like how this shows me the chance of, or the statistics behind how often those cards are going to come out. The one thing I will say, and this is the main thing that I've noticed with this game, is not these two top decks. You can cycle through them pretty quick. You can always pay an extra provision or an extra hawk on the land cards, or the seed cards to draw 3 and choose 1. So you can cycle through these cards pretty easily. You can discard one of these cards over here with the maps to gain the resources and cycle through these fairly easily. But the top 2 decks, the townsfolk and the space cards, there's no way to cycle through them. And when you're going through the journaling track, there are certain icons that you're not going to get through, and you could get stuck or an extremely difficult path that you've gotten into because cards aren't coming out. So as you can see, the stars, there's a bunch of stars. There's one sun, one moon, there's a handful of comets, and just a few planets. And so as you're going through this space deck and you're trying to cycle through it, it is difficult a lot of times to find the icons you need to move past this, because depending on which side of this board is out, it may say that you need like this 7 comets. That's not easy to find really usually.
Yeah.
You've got to get both these tiles over here. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and hope another comet card comes out if you're really trying to get that. So a lot of times no one will take these townsfolk cards with these space cards because they're all stars, and they don't want to take that star and then the next person gets to flip over a sun or a moon or something that's just so beneficial to moving on this track. Same with the townsfolk. If you've got just ones that no one really needs, like this merchant or different things, they're going to sit there. So people might be waiting for more resting ones. And when you don't have a huge variety there, they just sit there, and it kind of stalemates that whole top of the board, whereas the bottom, this side, and everything else continues to play. It just drags because you're waiting for these 2 decks to kind of produce fruit that people want. And so I really like a whole bunch about this game. But like I've said, and I've talked to several people now, and they found the same issue, as those top 2 decks can really slow trickle and make it really hard to get the game. And that's when you get these really long games of this. And I've played to where the moon or something came out. I got that early. I went on the path to go for that moon because it did come out. And the game went way faster and finished in about an hour and 10 minutes. I mean, it's a fast game that we played that time. But I've also played the other side of that where the cards aren't coming out, and it's
goes on 2 hours.
2 hours-ish, maybe even a little more, because everybody's waiting for a card that benefits them much more than the stuff that's out there, and you're not really taking it unless people take those cards. So,
and I'll agree with Jeremy on that. I do think the game can bog down and be slowed and hampered by what is available in the market. And even in these bottom markets down here, you can see a lot of the same cards come out time and time again, and you're really looking for that one beach, or you're looking for that one.
Or you don't have the money to pay the influence.
Right.
But the difference is you can pay a provision, or you can use that hawk that you don't really need anywhere else, and that extra hawk, and you can pull 3 and have a better option than just taking what's out there.
Now, I will say, for me, what makes this game stand out for me is the tableau building. Well, yeah, the track progression I do really, really like. But I feel like the star about the game is the tableau building and the way these cards
match up
and line up and let you do other actions or beef up your actions throughout the course of the game.
Or give you benefits based on where they line up. Yeah.
And that's a really cool thing that is I don't see it a whole lot in board gaming. You do see these dual use cards, and that's kind of the same idea. But this is tableau building, and it really shines through with the way these cards interact, and even just the way they look. I mean, it's a really cool look. Now, it does, like Jeremy said, it takes up a ton of space, but it is cool. It is something nice to see.
It's really cool when everything's
city
finalized.
Build up in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah. And you really feel like you have a lot available to you in the last third of the game. The first 2/3 of the game, you're building it up. The last third of the game, you feel like a machine and you power through this track. And it's just getting to that point that's more of the work in this game. The track progression, absolutely love it. Track progression for me is a mechanic that's going to work more often than not with me. I loved it in Arnok, as I already said. There's some other games out there, Tapestries. I mean, I really like track progression games, and this is designed very cleverly, very well. Do I want to make these choices moving in here to get this green worker, or do I want to advance faster down fast track and speed up the game? Great choices there with that. There are other benefits and tiles that you can pick up along the way. We just haven't put those out there for you. Just lots of good choices with that. So for me, even though the game can get bogged and lengthen itself out, and if you've watched any of our other videos, I'm somebody who's going to prefer a shorter game versus a longer game. So you would think that would work against this game, but despite all of that, I still really like everything else.
It's funny because this one, it flips us, because usually I like the longer, heavier game, and for this one, I don't like it that long. I feel like it
overstays.
It just continues to build and take up space, and I much preferred that quick hour 20 minutes game versus a 2+ hour game that we played because of that. And one thing that, if you follow Garphill Games and Renegade distributes them, you know that they will more than likely have an expansion for this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just what they do. They continue to create new things. And I think that eventually there may be something that comes to fix that. Like I've told you, even if you could just pay 1 coin and get rid of the cheapest one, slide them down. Yes, that new card's going to be expensive, but if you've saved up that money and you are the one that's paying the coin, you could know you spend the 1 and you have 2, 5, so you have 6. So if you had 6, you could still get the card that comes out if you wanted it. If not, you just spent 1 coin.
Or maybe I've help that other player over there because he sees it, he's going to want to buy it. He does buy it, but now another card has come out, and it's got the market going.
So I'm confident that there's going to be some tweak or fix for that. I just can't imagine, with all the people that I've talked to about the game and how they really enjoy it, but that's the one thing that is kind of the critique on it. I feel like if there was something even in the rules, it didn't have to be like new content, but if there was a variant or something where you pay a coin, and yes, you could house rule it, we've already talked about that, but if I pay a coin, I can ditch either one of these slide down, now you have a new ability. Or even with the townsfolk, if you made it 2 because they're less, I don't know. But there's I would assume that there's going to either be something to come to tweak that. I mean, during the playtest, I would think that would come up, but some people, might not have minded it. But for us, or the cards just never came out that way. But I can tell you, from the ones we've played, except for that one lucky game where the moon came out at the beginning and I just scooped it up quick, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, I'm talking, I don't know, 20 star cards in a row. I mean, it is like, when is there going to be another? I mean, I see this long bar. When am I going to eventually see something else in space?
So let's get to our scores on this game and wrap this video up. Jeremy, let's have you go first. What score are you going to give this one?
Well, like I said, I've seen best of both worlds. I've seen the great short game, and I've seen a good long game. For me, everything else about the game is great. I love the multiplication of these if you can achieve it. And I really like the way it looks at the end. I'm not a huge tableau building. I want to see it, but I think this one does a really good job of laying everything out so it creates this giant picture of what you're kind of scoping out. The track's great, other than getting stuck in places where nobody can move and it just drags. So for me, like I said, it's an honorable mention. I have this one because of reputation, how much I enjoyed the game that was quick, knowing the caveat of what I've already said about the top two decks. I have it at a 7.8.
Okay.
I think it's a strong game, and I am confident that there's either going to be a fix for that, or like I've said, we can house rule that among our gameplay, that if you want to ditch a card to try and, not have a stalemate up there, you can pay that coin and remove the cheapest card, creating a new one. Now, you wouldn't want to do that now with the moon there, but if they were like all stars and there's no benefit that's great and you're really trying to get something to move here, you could pay a coin or two or whatever you decided with your group or whatever comes in the future to clean those decks a little more.
I'm definitely higher than Jeremy on this game.
I'd hope so. It's on the top 10.
It was my number 10 game of 2022, and you can check that video out to see all the things I said on that video, which I've pretty much said in this video too. But my overall score for this one is going to be an 8.3. This is a game that is firmly in my keeping collection. This is going to have a spot on my shelf. It's going to be a game that I will break out anytime someone wants to ask to play it. It's one that I favor more over even some of the other games that Garphill has come out with the same kind of universe and with the West Kingdom series of games, in the North Sea games. So that goes to show
Circadians.
you. Yeah, well, I wasn't including Circadians, but yeah, that goes to show you what I think of it, because I really like a lot of those games, especially the West Kingdom and the North Sea games. This one trumps some of those games for me. Now, I won't say that I think it's better than all of them. I think there are some more that I still like, Paladins and Viscounts for sure, but it's right there amongst them. So I really do like this game, and as I've already said, even with it dragging and being a longer game, I still rate it that highly. So that goes to show how much I think of all the other aspects of the game. It really carries it through, and it's an overall good experience, a great experience if you ask me. So 8.3. Really like this game. It was my number 10 game of 2022. So there you have it. You've got two opinions on this particular game. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. So leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about Wayfarers. And let us know what you think about the Scholars game that is going to be coming out very, very soon. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.